Hi, my name is Masha, and I take it you're a bracelet beginner that doesn't know where to start. Don't worry, I got you covered. Making friendship bracelets is a really fun hobby, and you can create some really beautiful bracelets once you get going, but I can see how it can be a little bit overwhelming when you're starting, so this video is just for you. Good news is that you can pretty much jump into making bracelets straight away. I would recommend by starting with the classic chevron bracelet. I have a tutorial for this bracelet. It's specifically aimed for people who've never made bracelets before, so it goes really in depth, really slowly, and walks you through the entire process. I'll leave that video linked in the card and in the description for you, so you can check it out after you watch this one. The reason I recommend the chevron bracelet is because there are 4 main knots in friendship bracelet making. They're called the basic knots. I explained the knots that we use within the chevron video, but if you want a separate tutorial that goes super in-depth about these basic knots, their function, what each of them does, and see them explained multiple times just to make sure that you get it, I also have a tutorial for that, and that will also be linked in the card and in the description. So as I started saying, the reason I recommend the chevron bracelet is because out of the 4 basic knots, it uses the 2 main ones, and those are the forward knot and the backward knot. The 2 other knots are the forward-backward and the backward-forward knot, which are kind of like half and half. The forward-backward knot uses half of the forward knot, half of the backward knot. The backward-forward knot uses half of the backward knot, half of the forward knot. That already might sound a little bit overwhelming, but the point is the 2 first ones, the forward and the backward knot, are the main knots, and the other ones kind of just use components of that. And the reason I recommend you start with a chevron is because that's the simplest bracelet that uses both the forward and the backward knot at the same time. And I think that's great, because I personally, when I started making bracelets, I started with the candy stripe bracelet, for which I also have a tutorial if you do want to watch it, and if you do want to make that bracelet. However, I really don't recommend starting with that one. It might seem intuitive that it's easier to start with a candy stripe because it only uses 1 knot. And to be honest, if that works for you, definitely do that. I mean, I started that way. I started by learning how to make the candy stripe, and then I moved on to other bracelets. But the reason I don't really recommend it is because when I started with a candy stripe, I only made the candy stripe with forward knots. So I got really used to how to make forward knots. And then when I started trying to do the backward knot, I got really confused and I could not get the hang of it for the longest time. And that was 12 years ago. And to this day, I prefer forward knots than backward knots. Don't get me wrong, I know how to make both of them, and I make them easily. Close my eyes, I can still make them. But I do prefer the forward knot still, because that's what I started with. So I really would recommend using both of those knots at the same time to create the chevron, so you get used to both of them at the same time. And the chevron is also a really fun bracelet to make, and it's simple enough to start with. Once you've made the classic chevron, there are so many other bracelets that you can try. I recommend starting off by trying variations of the chevron. We have the dotted border chevron, the refracted chevron, the distorted chevron, the polka dot chevron. There are so many variations of the chevron. These only differ by a couple of knots from the classic chevron, but they create a completely different and unique pattern, which could be really fun to make. I also have a playlist for beginner bracelet tutorials. And just like it sounds, it's a playlist of videos that I've created specifically for beginners. So once you've made 1 or 2 bracelets, you might want to branch out and you might want to start learning about different types of starts and ends. The first type of start I recommend you learn is the basic loop. The basic loop is the foundation for so many different kinds of starts and ends, with making triangle ends after a loop, or a teardrop loop, or even making loops for alpha bracelets, which is a different type of bracelets that we're going to talk about in just a second. The basic loop is the starting point for that. So I'll leave that tutorial in the card and in the description for you as well. If you're ready to upgrade from there, I would recommend the triangle ends video, which is also a type of start that I absolutely love, and I love combining this with the basic loop. And I even have another video which is called More on Triangle Ends, which goes in depth about how to combine these with loops and just kind of answering some questions that I didn't quite answer in the first one. So those 2 videos go hand in hand, though I really would recommend you hold off on learning those. They aren't too difficult, don't get me wrong. Triangle ends are not too difficult. They only use forward knots and backward knots, so no fiddling with forward, backward knots or anything like that. And there's nothing difficult to them, but I would hold off on that until you've made a couple of bracelets, just so that you are very familiar with actually making the knots, because it can get just confusing. But they're really fun to make once you do get to know how to do them. Of course, don't forget to learn about how to make bracelet ties. My favorite ties are the twisted ties. I have a tutorial for that as well. They are super simple to make. You literally just twist your strings in one direction and then have another bundle, twist them in one direction, and then twist them in a different direction onto each other, but you can watch that tutorial for a more in-depth explanation on that. Twisted ties are my absolute favorite way to end bracelets. I think it looks cute and it's also super simple and quick to make. And then of course, once you're comfortable with all of that, you can start learning how to read bracelet patterns. This is a little bit more complex, so definitely work your way up to it. But I have a tutorial on that as well, which teaches you the different methods of reading normal patterns, the row by row method, the segment knotting method, and pretty much everything else you need to know in between. I'll leave that linked in the card and in the description as well. If you don't feel quite ready to read patterns, don't worry. I post plenty of bracelet tutorials that will keep you entertained, and I post them regularly so you have a constant stream of new bracelets to make, even if you're not quite there with patterns. Or if you just need a helping hand. I'll leave the bracelet tutorials playlist linked in the description as well, so you can keep up to date on that. I have plenty of videos with tips and tricks, bracelet hacks. I've got a whole playlist called the Bracelet Helpline, in which I answer viewers' questions specific to their bracelets and also generally. There are plenty of resources online. I will leave all of these linked in the description to help you out as well. And of course, once you work your way up to it, you can learn how to make alpha bracelets, which is a different type of bracelet, and they are super fun to make as well. I'll leave my tutorial in the card and in the description for you as well. But definitely work your way up to that one. That one is a little bit intense. And of course, my favorite video to recommend to any beginners is my beginner's guide video. This video talks about pretty much everything you need to know as a beginner. The different bracelet types and how they're different, different string types and how they're different, how to calculate string length, what materials to use, how to pin your bracelet down, where to start as well is covered within that video, and so much more. It's a great place to start as a beginner to get a general idea and a general overview of what you can do to then deep dive yourself into what specifically interests you from everything that I talk about there. And also on a very exciting note, I also wrote a book. It's called The Beginner's Guide to Friendship Bracelets, just like that video. And that's really what it is. This book is a collection of photo tutorials specifically for beginners. It picks you up right at the start. It teaches you all the basics from the basic knots to basic loops to basic friendship bracelets and everything we discussed here as well. And it takes you all the way to the more complex stuff and leaves you with enough knowledge to be able to create bracelets yourself. The book includes plenty of photo tutorials that have great detail to make sure that you understand all the concepts. And all of these beginner tutorials are in one place that is easily accessible and easy to understand. I worked really hard on this book. I'm really proud of it, and I really hope that it helps some of you guys out there. This book is out now in the United States, and it will be about a month later everywhere else in the world. You can buy it pretty much anywhere you typically buy books, but if you buy it from my publisher at rockynook.com, the direct link will be in the description, and you can get the paperback and the ebook as a bundle. I worked really hard on this book to make sure it's really understandable for beginners, and I included as much as I could to give you the most information possible within one book, and I really hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the world of friendship bracelets. We have a blast here. If you're interested in bracelets, you should also definitely join the online communities. Make sure to follow me and other bracelet creators on Instagram, as that's the main place that we chat. A lot of people run challenges and lots of fun stuff happens there as well. You should also join my Discord server. The link to that is in the description, as that's a really fun place to be as well, and to just chat with fellow bracelet makers. Really happy to have you here. I post bracelet tutorials and just fun videos about bracelets all the time on this channel. I hope to see you too. Alright, I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Before I go, I want to give a special shout out to my patrons, especially my top supporters. Thank you so much for supporting my videos. It is with your support that I'm able to do these videos. If you also want to become a patron and support the work that I do on this channel, the link to that will be in the description. But in any case, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!